Pope Francis of the Catholic Church reaffirms bishops must get Vatican's approval to allow Latin Mass. The latest instruction also makes clear that bishops cannot take the law into their own hands. American Magazine reports on WND, Pope Francis has unequivocally confirmed that bishops must obtain authority from the Holy See before granting permission to celebrate the pre-Vatican II Mass in parish churches and before allowing priests ordained after July 16, 2021 to use the 1962 Roman Missal. The latest instruction also makes clear that bishops cannot take the law into their own hands and interpret in a different way the restrictions on the Latin Mass issued by the Pope in 2021. The rescript was published today, February 21st, they said, following an audience that Pope Francis granted on February 20th to Cardinal Arthur Roche, the prefect of the Dicastery for Divine Worship and the Discipline of the Sacraments, who signed the rescript. In July 2021, Pope Francis promulgated his apostolic letter Traditionis Custodes, Guardians of the Tradition, declaring only the liturgical books promulgated after the Second Vatican Council to be the unique expression of the lex orandi, the law of worship of the Roman Rite, restoring the obligation of priests to have their bishop's permission to celebrate according to the extraordinary or pre-Vatican II Mass, and ordered bishops not to establish any new groups or parishes in their dioceses devoted to the former liturgy. You can imagine how many times the Catholic Church has changed things from what the original church was at the time of Jesus' disciples. Pope Francis has unequivocally confirmed that bishops must obtain authorization from the Holy See before granting permission to celebrate the pre-Vatican II Mass in parish churches. Pope Francis said then that his decision was meant to promote the concord and unity of the Church. Many bishops granted temporary permission in the summer of 2021 for the liturgies to continue while they studied the papal document and consulted their priests and faithful. Some bishops then granted individual dispensation for the rules, citing a paragraph of Traditionis Custodis that affirmed it belongs to the diocesan bishop as moderator, promoter, and guardian of the whole liturgical life of the particular church entrusted to him to regulate the liturgical celebrations of his diocese. With the rescript, Pope Francis confirms that dispensation from Traditionalis Custodis are reserved in a special way to the Apostolic See. The Pope again confirmed what he had already established with Article 7 of Traditionis Custodis, namely that the Dicastery for Divine Worship and the Discipline of the Sacraments exercises the authority of the Holy See in the above-mentioned cases, watching over the observance of what has been laid down. And today's rescript explicitly references Canon 87, paragraph 1 of the Code of Canon Law. A minority of bishops, namely in the United States, and some canon lawyers have cited that canon to interpret the dispensations in a different way to what Francis intended. The rescript makes it clear that should a diocesan bishop have granted the dispensations in the two cases mentioned above, he's obliged to inform the Dicastery for Divine Worship and Disciplines of the Sacraments, which will evaluate the individual cases. Vatican media said this means every bishop who has conceded the use of parish churches, established personal parishes, or gives the nihil obstat for the use of 1962 Missal to priests ordained after July 16, 2021, without the assent of the Apostolic See, will be required to submit a request to the Dicastery and await its response. And furthermore, the rescript confirms what the Pope had already expressed in his assent in the audience of November 18, 2021, in responses to the dubia, the questions that had emerged after the publication of Traditionis Custodis, those responses were published along with explanatory notes on December 4th, 2021. The document also removes the confusion raised by a minority of bishops, some canon lawyers, and others who disagree with the restrictions issued by Pope Francis. It also seeks to reboot charges from various quarters of the Church against Cardinal Arthur Roche, whom they have accused of exceeding his authority in this manner, when, as the rescript makes clear, he was only faithfully carrying out papal directives. And this was from the Catholic News Service, that's on WND. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box.